What's going on, everyone? This is Trevor here for RSG, and you know what? For $15 to $30, you can get yourself able to do this. Well, if you want to learn how to make one, well, you know what you need to do? You need to stick around. Alright, so we're going to try to make a $15 to $30 do-it-yourself track IR because we know we don't want to pay for that thing up there at 100 and, well, that's the pro one, so that's 180. I don't know about that one when I can make it for $15 to $30. Now, the $15 to $30 is if you can get a camera like the PS3i that I only got for $5. There were tons of them online on eBay. But if not, and you had to get some kind of more expensive camera, that might be the part that drives it up. But let's say you have another camera already, or you have a PS3i camera that has a high frames per second. We don't care about resolution, we care about frames per second. And that's what makes it so smooth, like on what you saw as the video was starting. So, there are some different ways that track IR clips can be made. Now, the big thing is the camera has to be, high frames per second, and we're going to modify it so it tracks infrared. Okay, I'll show you everything that you're going to need. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to do two things. We're going to show you what is needed to make it and the general principle of how to make it, and you can build it all the way you need. I don't think you need someone to show you everything along the way. If you do, I do have a video down below, link to my Twitch highlight that is like 2 hours long of me building it. The only thing you don't see is me opening up the PS3i, but I'll help you get through that here. So let's get into it. Now there's some different ways. So you have the track clip, which is the actual official track IR clip. Absolutely horrible. Everyone complains about it. But we're going to make kind of our own. And that's the design I decided to go with. We're going to make our own, but there's a couple different ways. So you could do the trackhat as well, which this is a company that makes basically the same thing, uses a free open source program, which actually their program is the one we're using for this because it works honestly the best. Now, if you don't want to go through the hassle of making anything, honestly, trackhat is really good. They're decent price. I mean, some are a little more on the expensive side, but they are a decent price. It's a lot cheaper than going with a track IR. Granted, though, it still requires the camera there. You can't buy a camera from them. But if you don't feel like making the clip or the hat or whatever, you can go with that company. Now, that is the trackhat. Here is the last one, and it's still a hat. But this is more on the reflector basis. See, it uses the clips and a reflective material. But what you need is how the track IR actual unit works. Is there's on the side and all that is it's the LEDs to shine off, and basically it'll bounce off the reflective material and then hence go back to the track IR. So that is how that works. But what we're going to do is, like I said, like the track clip idea, because that is the one that tends to work the easiest for me so far. But I will show you something. This is the setup I decided to go with originally, and this is before I understood how all the software worked, and I had some issues with the software. And now, but this was the original setup that I had, which these two on the side of me extended pretty far away from my face. So if we take a side shot, it was about up to here away. Let's do more of a side shot. It's about up to here. So this is why you don't want LEDs, because they're in front of your face. It'll be bright. But how it works is basically when you have the clip here, we have the upper one, which is a little bit forward from this back here, which the back is for your depth perception, so when you lean forward and stuff. And then you have the bottom, which is extended past all of them. It's not so much the same on, like I said, my old setup. These two, and the same as the hat, if you look at the hat, okay, the hat is kind of the same idea. So these two are set up at same distance, and then you have the top one, which is recessed all the way back, just like you'll see on that one there, where up there it is recessed all the way back. Now, I've totally changed up that since then, and now what I've gone to is the same kind of idea. So we have our one recessed all the way back, we have our one up forward, and we have the one that extends the furthest. So this is why I'm not going into exactly building it. If you want to watch the video down below, you can, but that'll show you the old setup of how I built it, but it doesn't matter, because that's why I like to use wire. Like thick wire is how I use that, because I can manipulate I can bend this all around, and that's how I just was able to take it and make a whole new design out of it. Even though it's not the prettiest, you can definitely tie it up, especially if you have like a 3D printer or something of that nature, but it works great. So what are we going to need to make this? Well, let's start out with wire. Red and a black. Now we're going to need this red and a black so you can tell positive and negative. Now as far as the actual wire goes here, what you are going to also need is your resistors. Your resistors are very important. Now what you want, the way I wired it up, is that all of these bulbs, okay, are independently wired, and that is a parallel design. So basically what's going to happen is that each lead coming off has its own resistor and own set of wires going to each LED, and that's the way I decided to do it. If you do it another way, I'm not sure, but there is on the FreeTrack website, which we don't use FreeTrack, but if you go to the FreeTrack website, they do tell you what diagrams you need. And I will be upgrading that to USB power because I don't care about wired. I'm wired to the headphones already, so it's already wired. I don't mind. But what you do need is, like I said, 30 ohm quarter watt resistors is what you want. You can come closer to it. If you go a little bit lower than 30 ohm, you might risk blowing the LED. It'll make it brighter, and it could be in risk of actually blowing the LED. I had a lot of issues with that before I understood the whole, what resistors it needed and everything. And then if you go a little bit higher on the ohms, then the LED could be a little dimmer, which could make it a little tough for the tracking software if it's too dim. So I've got 33 ohm, half a watt is what I have right here because that was the closest I could find. So it works fine, and this is me testing it right here. And as you see right there, that is taken with a camera. Your camera phone can actually, or your phone on your the phone on your camera, the camera on your phone, okay, can see that light that you can't with your naked eye. So that is the difference right there. Of having having your camera phone or your phone with you, so you can check on if they're working. That's how I was able to see if my infrared LEDs were working easily. Okay, now this was just me testing it, and you see the resistor all wired up, and I wanted to go for longevity, and I've had no problems. I've been running this for day in, day out, no problems at all. I haven't blown any LEDs. So you're going to need infrared LEDs, and how you wire LEDs, by the way, is long leg is going to be your positive, and the shorter leg is going to be your negative. Make sure if you do trim this up that you do leave the negative shorter and the positive longer, so you can differentiate on which one they are. But that's what you're going to do. Now if you now the other thing you're going to need is, of course, your soldering iron, a good old soldering iron, I'll tell you right now, or you can do some wire glue. But when you have the soldering iron, you're going to need some solder too, so make sure you get some of that. I like to go, there's I have rosin core solder here. Basically it has a flux already in it, so but I suggest you get flux as well if you can, and that is going to prolong the life of those wires getting not oxidized and stuff like that. So keep that in mind, but that's a whole soldering lesson. If you want to do that, you could look up how to solder something. But if you're looking up this already, you could also use wire glue. So if you don't want to solder, use wire glue. Don't twist them up. Don't twist them, because that's just cheap and it's going to be a bad connection and suck. So just don't do it. So don't do it. So last thing that you're going to need is you're going to need floppy disk. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find whoever you can that has one, or find one around the house. Find a way to get it, because this is how you're going to block out all the other light that's all around that you see lighting me up right now. Well, you want to block that out from it being able to see these LEDs going off, because that will help the camera be able to track the right thing instead of just a bunch of light in the room, which we don't need that. So that's why we're going to need that. So let's get into it. First things first. Now I'm trying to make this as quick as a video as I can, because most are like an hour long. So let's get into it. And that is going to be taking apart the PS3i. So we're going to get into that real quick, because I don't really... I'm not going to go ahead and take mine apart on video right now. So the best way I could do it is this. So right here, you have all these like blue points are your clipping points of these other clips. Those were kind of easy to get past. These ones down here, you know, you just be careful when you're prying around with whatever. It's this son of a bee right here that was a pain in the ass. So you're going to want to take that, okay, and you're going to want to basically just find a way to attach it, or you know, just keep working with it. But now that you know it's the clip is there, maybe try to work at that area to get the clip off. But once you get it all off, you're going to see all these little screws and stuff here, okay? Now these little screws here are all the same size. It's these right here that aren't, okay, and these are what holds in the actual lens portion. So once you've gotten all these taken off, okay, and you've removed this and pulled it away, and the wire's just setting down, because that's actually, all this obstruction is your stand that it rotates on, or that it sits and rotates on. But then you take out these screws. Keep all the screws that are different lengths and everything all separate. Make sure you do that. But then once you've gotten all them taken out, you're going to lift this out, and what's going to come out of there, you're going to be able to get to your lens. So your lens here, that little tiny lens is an IR filter. That's to filter out IR. That's not the same IR filter that we're making with the floppy disk that actually is to block out all the other light and let through IR. This IR filter is to block the IR, and we don't want to do that. So once we get that out, you take your exacto knife and edge it all up, whatever. Just don't mess up that lens in there. Okay, then once you do it, what I suggest to make it really nice and clean and easy on yourself, cut out your floppy disk area that you need and stick it right into there, like into this, maybe this whole round section. Basically, you know, try to get this whole section filled up with it. That's going to be your cleanest, best look. Then you're going to get it all put back in. You're going to stick it back in the same way it was. You might find it easy to actually connect it to the board, like previous, you know, prior to putting the whole board back into it. And then once the whole board's back in, you just put it all back together the way you took it apart. Now you are finally ready to actually, you know, work on the unit. So how the unit works is, like I was showing before, you have your points, you have your upper point, and then you have your middle point. That's to when you lean forward and stuff like that, and you have your bottom point, which has to be longer. You're kind of making an odd shaped triangle here is what you're kind of doing. So that's the idea that you want to get at. That's where we want to go with this. Now you're going to need also as materials a battery holder. Now I'm going to eventually update something maybe on Twitter, or maybe put an update video of me turning it into USB, because eventually I do want it USB. Here's the thing, if you make it USB, okay, I don't know the exact piece, but I would suggest plugging it into a block, into the, you know, into a power block, a USB power block, a lower powered one. Doesn't need to be anything crazy. It need to be like 2 amps that you have for your phone. But I just suggest not plugging it into your computer, because you can damage the motherboard unless you put, there's another, beyond the resistor, there's another piece that you need to prevent that. So that's just my suggestion. But for right now, we're going with 2 AA's, because 2 AA's have gotten me I would definitely say before dying out, and that's just with like I had Radio Shack batteries. I haven't tried with Duracells or anything, and just with Radio Shack batteries, I was able to get I want to say about 22 hours nonstop, maybe even a little longer, without any problems, without these dimming or anything. And then after that, they finally started dimming out. But that's what I would go with is 2 AA's. Now, when I put the AA's in, okay, you're gonna see that they will light up a little bit. So they are a little lit. See, I'll take it out, boom, and they are a little lit. Okay, but with this still has an IR filter in it, so it won't be as strong as it needs to be once that filter's over it. And I am not doing that to my Logitech C920, neither one of them. But the PS3i that I did it for $5, I have no problem, and it works great. So I think I've given an idea of what you need to build it, of what products, what stuff you need to actually build the unit. I've given you the idea. I suggest if you really need the measurements that bad, just look the measurements up online of any other one. But it's more the principle of how it works. As long as you see how it works and you look at other units, you can figure out how to make it yourself. Like I said, I like to use wire because I can manipulate it, thick wire, so it stays in place, you know. But tidy it up, make it look your own. If you have a 3D printer, do it that way. That is going to be your best option as far as this. Now, let's get on to the actual part that makes it tougher to work with this stuff, because TrackIR's software is very simple. But guess what? This software got real simple too. Alright, so let's get into the software, because you don't need to see me, but you need to see the software. I know this is a little odd looking and shaped, but this is the way I have to show it to you. So, let's start off with options. Now, I've tried a bunch of different ones, Face Track No IR and Free Track. And the problem with Face Track No IR is there's no camera selector. Free Track seems to be somewhat outdated and works like crap in my opinion. But this was just so simple, I didn't even really need to do much. Let's go into the options and I'll show you what I really did. Now, I like to bind the center key because you want to make a key to center. And I did a toggle tracking, which starts or ends it. You know, you don't need to do start or end. Everything else I really left alone. I didn't need anything. So now we have absolute camera device. I left it right on there. Center at startup. I left it right on there. And now I went over to the camera. The camera, this is where it made a big difference. This is where I swapped it to 320 by 240 at 189 hertz, because that's what matters. Is how fast it goes. Your field of view, 75 degrees, and everything else stayed the same. Threshold, you really don't even have to worry about this because it automatically does it. Enable slider set point size. So it seemed to automatically do that, and it seems to work fine. Now, as far as the model, when you first get it installed, it actually asks you whether you're going to do a cap, a clip on the right, or a clip on the left. So I have the clip on the left, as you saw. You don't have to touch any calibration. I haven't needed to do anything of that nature. It just seemed to work. I didn't touch any of this camera offset either. Now, output, I just said enable here for the with compensation on, for example, rotating. You know, I'm not going to read the whole thing out, but I did that. Now, for Euro or for American truck or Euro truck, whatever you're going to do, I disabled the roll. It's an extra head movement that just actually creates annoyance. I just disabled it. There's no real need for roll. Now, if you're more in a jet or a flight simulator, even a car game, there's not really much need for roll, but in a flight simulator and stuff, I could see the need for that. The filter, you could have the smoothing, which I might actually decide to turn down. Your smoothing will actually kind of, depending on what your smoothing is, the higher the smoothing, the longer delay there is between your head movements, but the smoother it is, where the less smooth it is, it will be a little twitchy. It can be, not guaranteed, but it can be a little more on the twitchy side, but you would have a more realistic sense of motion. Rotation sensitivity, I mean, you can mess with all this. I didn't mess with it at all. Game detection, I didn't even need to really do much with this. You can have it do game detection, but because it's using the track, it's kind of using TrackIR in a sense. because games look for track IR, so it's using some kind of binder that tells it, hey, you know what? This will work just the same. Come and turn me on. So as soon as you start up a game that can be used with it, it seemed to work right off the bat. Sorry about the little mic bump there, but it started to work right off the bat. I had no issues. So that's it on the setup part. So now here's the last part of the setup. So let's hit start. Okay. Now as you see these points on my head, and it's turning the hat. Okay. It's turning the hat. Now I might have some stuff in my way, but it seemed to do fine. Now what you do is you pull up your charts. Now you could also, let's see if we can, I can't really make this smaller, but basically let's move around some stuff so maybe we could see it. We don't need the other side. I just kind of need the smaller side. So we'll look at this. So when I move my head left and right, you'll see that this slider moves up. What I wanted it to do is gradually go up. So when I'm turning my head to the right, it's not flinging to the right. But let's see if I turn my head all the way. The higher, now let's remember where I put this. This is a little after 40, but let's do this to it, right? Let's see what happens if I do this. So if we turn, but as soon as, see, boom. As soon as we get there, oh, it shoots right up. So we want a little bit back after 40 right there. So now it'll turn around, but it's not going to do it so easily. You might have to lean forward, which leaning forward will make it easier for you to turn. But find your right thing. See what you want. Maybe have your game open and try it. But now you see the hat and you want it to kind of mimic what you want it to do. Now we go to our pitch, and that's our up and down. So like I'm looking up. At this point I'm getting off the screen. I'm like looking so far down. I kind of want it to be quick. Same thing when I'm looking down. I'm getting so far down I'm looking off of the screen. So I want it to be quick, and it's the same thing here. Once it's getting to a point, you might want it to start turning quicker. So that's where you're going to raise it up. So the longer you drag it out, the slower it's going to be, and the more sharp of an incline you have is the quicker it's going to be. Now roll I've turned off, so this really doesn't matter, but if we did have it enabled, it's when you turn your head, roll your head to the left or right. And as you see with the pivot points on there. Now your x-axis is going to be, okay, basically your left and right turning as it seems, and then your y is going to be up and down. Those don't seem to move too much, and I don't really mess with them. The only one I really messed with was z. And why did I mess with z? Because this is you're leaning forward and backwards. As you see, the hat gets closer and bigger. Now, that is a really cool feature that I love because you can't even tend to do that in most things. Now, when you're looking here, see how I have it down at the bottom? That is actually a dead zone. When you have it all the way down when you have a point all the way down at the bottom, like this, if I go all the way out, this whole way is a dead zone. This whole way is a dead zone. It may look like my hat's moving, but it's only moving because it thinks my head's turning. It's not going to actually start going forward until I get to that point. So, I only did a small dead zone. And you don't even have to do a dead zone. If you want it to feel more natural, don't put a dead zone. It made it easier for me to look at my gauges and stuff in the truck, as you saw earlier. But that is the gist of how you're going to set it up, and the curves are so easy to set up in this, okay, that it really made the program that much easier, and then that's it. You're back to being able to play your game and look around. Let's show you this one more time as I look around in American Truck Simulator and show you some fun. And we'll take a look at that real quick, and you can see how good it really works. Alright, so I think that's it. I think we've shown you everything we possibly need to show you here, and that's how to use the software, the basic principles of the measurements. Well, you don't really I didn't even use measurements, so the basic principles of how to build it, you like I said, you have the one somewhat long, and you have the one all the way recessed back, and then you have this buddy right here that's way overshadowing everything. So that is currently what I am using right now. You can use the hat size style if you use a hat, which are really good because the LEDs tend to not able to get blocked, because if you turn too much, as you see right there, if the camera wasn't over to my left a little bit, this LED would be getting blocked by my big old noggin. So that is actually a cool part about having the hat. But I think I've shown you everything that I could possibly show you in here. I've showed you how to use the software, and I showed you the basic principles and all the equipment that you'll need to make this do-it-yourself track IR. But if you have any questions, throw them down in the comments below. Be happy to not answer them for you. Or, wait. No, I'd be happy to answer them for you. That's what it is. Yes, yes. I think I messed that up back there before, but yes, I'd be happy to answer them for you and try to get this working for you, because DIY projects are awesome. And I'm going to have more DIY projects like the DIY wheel stand that I've been still using for over 2 years. It only cost me $40 because DIY is cheaper, cooler, and a sense of accomplishment and your own. You did it your way, the way you want it, or maybe you didn't want it, because I don't want mine like that. But hey, you did it yourself, and it's a sense of accomplishment, and you should be happy when it works. Because not everything that we try to make works, but when it does, damn is it righteous. So thank you all for watching this video. I hope this helped. If you need any questions, like I said, throw them down in the comments below. Follow me on Twitter at ReadySetGame87. I'm going to say that in my outro as well. But hey, follow me down there and send me a picture of a completed one that you've done. Maybe it'll be really cool. Like I said, want to get mine 3D printed a piece for that. So who knows? Maybe you have a 3D printer at home. But save yourself some money. Make a DIY track IR and enjoy the heck out of some trucking or some flight simulator, because I'll tell you what, when I'm trucking, being able to go left and right to see if a car is going to smack into you is a lot easier, and it makes it easier to back up too. So guess what? It wins in my book. This is something I've needed for a long time, and I'm glad I have it, and it was so cheap. So I think you should make it. Hope you make it, and I hope it works for you. And I hope this helped you. So for all of you that are going to keep watching my videos, guess what? I want to thank you all for watching. And if you liked the video, please make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you dislike the video, please make sure that you tell me why in the comments down below. Feel free to comment, and also make sure you share this out to people so they can know about the awesome videos that I have for you. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at ReadySetGame87, and you can also watch me live at twitch.tv and hitbox.tv/ReadySetGame87. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.